Hello and welcome to the Dr. Celia Show. I am your host, Dr. Celia Corbo, a functional health practitioner, licensed chiropractor, and entrepreneur. On our show, we feature and showcase wonderful entrepreneurs and learn about their stories to success. Today, I have Alex King. Alex is a certified nutritionist and podcast host. She helps women deal with the side effects of birth control, sync their life with their menstrual cycle, and balance their hormones naturally. She also is the host of the Holistic Women's Health podcast, which covers everything from health, nutrition, fitness, personal growth, relationships, and more. Hey, Alex, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great today. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm so happy that you're here. Since being on your podcast in April and then just listening to you all the time, you are definitely a no-brainer to have on my show.
I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. Well, can you let our listeners know a little bit more about you if you can share your story with us?
Yes. So my health story started when I was a little bit younger and I got really interested in food and nutrition and wellness. And my mom was pretty interested in that. So she would say, eat your blueberries. They're really high in antioxidants. And then it got the gears shifting and I got curious, what are antioxidants? So I would always pick her brain about why are carrots good for me and things like that. And then I changed my diet. I became vegetarian and then just got really interested in food. And then around age 12, 13, I ended up having to have emergency surgery to remove a ruptured cyst.
Oh, no.
I was always having really painful, heavy periods. And then one day it was just unbearably painful. And I had just been gritting my teeth every month getting through them, but I eventually had missed so much school. So my mom said, okay, if you're in this much pain, I'm taking you to the hospital. And, we have those moments, especially as women, that's like, oh, wait, it's no big deal. It's fine. It's fine. And so I wanted to say that so bad, but I knew I was in a lot of pain. So we did end up at the hospital. And when you get to the counter, they ask you, what's your pain level on a scale of 1 to 10? And I, of course, lied, again, making my pain seem like it was nothing. So I said it was lower than it actually was, when in fact it was like a 12 out of 10. And then eventually I told my mom, I said, I lied. I said it was a lower number than it was. She was like, well, go back and tell them. So I did. And then they wheeled me back and they did an ultrasound and they found out that I had a cyst that was rupturing. So they
Wow.
wheeled me into emergency surgery and ended up removing my left ovary at the young age of, I was either 12 or 13. And right after that, they said, we're going to put you on birth control to manage these cysts, the birth control pill, and you're going to be on it for the rest of your life until you want to get pregnant. Just come off the pill, get pregnant, no problem. And then just go back on the pill until you reach menopause, then you can come off. And so that's what I thought. I was like, okay, great. If this manages my symptoms, amazing. And then I had all sorts of problems on different pills. So we had to go back and try different pills. They were changing my moods. I was up, I was down, gaining weight, losing weight, all sorts of stuff at that young age. It was just a confusing time. And then I went off when I was in university. And my mom had read an article that it may potentially be affecting for future fertility. So I tried to go off. I ended up back in the hospital from extremely heavy, painful periods. And then from there, it's just been this long journey of, is it cysts? Is it PCOS? Is it endo? And it turns out it was a combo of cysts, fibroids, and endometriosis. And so I ended up coming off the pill at the same time that I was just starting my practice and just been learning. And now I specialize in women's health and I see this day in, day out.
Yeah, I think it's so common for females to have this philosophy and this idea behind their periods having to be something painful until it's excruciating and you can't handle it anymore. And you're like, okay, this is a problem. But, even for me, every month I have to really tailor what I'm doing to make sure my periods are quote unquote normal or not painful, because they can really, really throw you off. It can get quite crazy.
Yeah. Well, you can miss school, you can miss work, you
Yeah.
can miss out on parties and fun things and barbecues and family events, vacations, flying, all sorts of stuff. So it really, we think about it as just, oh, painful periods, la-ti-da,
Yeah.
just take some painkillers and move on with your life. But really for some people, it's throws everything off. And some people can't miss work or school, and they just have to push through the pain, and it's not ideal at all.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy how normalized it is, and it's really not normal to have period pain.
Yeah, that you make
Yeah.
a great point. It's not normal, and we just think it is because that's kind of what we were taught, and that's, that's what our whoever's raising us is saying. Well, I had painful periods, or your grandma or cousin, sister, whatever had painful periods, and we think, oh, this is just a normal
Yeah.
part of just getting a bleed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before I want to talk about painful periods and birth control pills and all that, but before we dive into that, let's just maybe scrape the surface for some of our viewers who don't know anything about menstruation or they haven't learned it very well. What are the different phases of the menstrual cycle, and does it really take up the whole month, or is it something that only happens at one time of the month?
Yes. So there are 4 phases throughout the entirety of roughly a month. So it's your cycle. Some people's cycles are 28 days, some are 36 days. So it's however long your cycle is, but typically it's within the realm of a month. And then we'll start off with menstruation, or the menstrual phase, or the bleeding phase. That one's the most obvious because physically most people will have a bleed and you can physically see red, right? So that's typically anywhere from 3 to 7 days. If you're bleeding less than 3 days, we have some hormone issues we want to look into. If you're bleeding more than 7 days, same thing. We have some concerns that we want to look into. And it should be maple syrup consistency, not too pale in color, not pinkish, and not too dark as well. Just a nice cherry juice, cranberry juice kind of color. And it should be roughly the same every month, not too clotty as well. And so that's menstrual phase. After that's also considered winter. And then after that, we move into follicular phase, which is considered spring. So if you think of spring, things are starting anew, or, it's fresh. We want to try new things in this phase. We're feeling like ourselves again. We're getting some energy back. Hormones are starting to rise. And that's about 7 to 10 days. And then after that, we move into ovulation. So that is the time, if you're looking to get pregnant, you want to focus on. If you're not looking to get pregnant, then you would want to take some action steps during that. And the effects of ovulation will last typically somewhere 3 to 4, 3 to 5 days. But that actual ovulation, that time you can get pregnant, is more like 24 hours. So a single day where you can get pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And that's considered summer. So if you think summer, salads, smoothies, cold foods, things like that, it's a warmer phase. And then after summer, we move into fall, and that is the luteal or the luteal phase, depending pronunciation. Pronounce it how you wish. And that's about 10 to 14 days. And then we think of fall. So things are starting to cool down again. We're preparing for that bleed. So we tend to want to stay in a bit more, do more nesting type of activities. So cleaning our house, organizing files and papers, emptying all the cupboards in our kitchen and doing a deep clean.
Yeah.
Are you laughing because you're like, yeah, that's me?
That sounds like me quite a bit.
Right? You look at something and you're like, ooh, I want to organize that so bad.
Yeah.
Like, you'll just look at your office drawers and you're like, okay, this is a good time to do taxes, paperwork, organizing files, documents, planning social media posts, things like that. And then we're back at our bleed phase. So those are the 4 phases we'll go through every month.
I love that you put the seasons to it. I've never heard that before. And oh my God, it just that's why I love doing this, because you learn so much and you hear things in a different way and it just clicks.
Yeah, more of a traditional Chinese medicine perspective with the
for
seasons.
sure.
And it's just naturally how we're feeling as well. So in winter phase, which when we're bleeding, even just to prevent painful periods or cysts, or, to work more with your hormones than against them. In the winter, what do we like? We like tea, hot chocolate, warming foods, soups, stews. Our energy is more inwards. You want to cuddle up under the couch or the cozy blanket and read. And that's just how our body naturally wants to react. For most people, it's not a hard and fast rule. I do have some of my clients who are like, why do I have so much energy when I'm bleeding and my libido is crazy? But for most people, we just want to hang out on the couch, watch a show, read a book, chill, cup of tea. And yeah, so you can just think of it with the seasons and then just think, what would I do in this season? And that's an easy way to get started into cycle syncing.
I think that's also like a really beautiful way to tie your body into nature, which is like the ultimate,
Yeah.
The ultimate cycle guide for really anything, whether it be your menstrual cycle, your sleep cycle. Nature is so healing. And again, thinking about it like that and treating your body with that kind of respect, like you would treat Mother Earth and nature, it's really beautiful, actually. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, there's so many things in nature. And even if we look back onto, let's say, the women's cycle and how it relates to the moon as well, that's
Yes.
something that, the lunar energy. And yeah, we are so connected to nature and it's so beautiful.
Can you talk about that actually? Because it's always been such, again, it's a mystery to me. I understand like new moon, new energy, things are very like very full energy is what I understand. But can you break up the lunar phases with menstruation?
Yeah, so it'll depend on the person. There's an app I love called Stardust, and it'll
Okay.
actually tell you if you're a white moon witch or a red moon witch.
I
So,
love that.
depending, and it'll tell you where you line up according to the moon. And yeah, are you a pink witch or a red witch or a white witch? I don't know them all off the top of my head based on the app. But last time I checked, I was menstruating with the full moon, but some people, and it'll give you a description too, which is pretty cool. Like if you bleed when the moon is full, you're more of that healing, nurturing type of energy. You're more of a practitioner, kind of like what we do, that
Hmm.
kind of energy. And some people menstruate with the new moon as well, new energy, things like that. And it just brings a whole different set of personality traits, which is really fun. So I do like the Stardust app, and you can see where you line up with the moon and how it influences you.
Oh, I love that. I wrote it down. I'm going to link it below as well.
It's just
Anything
fun, just to
energy.
see.
Oh my gosh. Anything energy, astrology. I am one of those woo woo practitioners. I'm like, when's your birthday? I need to have it on their file, but I do treat my patients according to their birthday. I do see
Love
validity
that.
with it, but then I also
Mhm.
love how the moon dictates a lot within the body as well, and the tidal forces and things like that. But going back to menstruation, so we explained the different cycles, and I just saw a post on your Instagram actually really recently about certain exercises that we should be doing during these different phases of menstruation. And I'm all about the physical, the chemical, and the emotional. So can you share a little bit more about the exercises and how to move your body depending on where you're at in the month?
100%. Yeah, there's all sorts of things we can do relationship wise, exercise wise, with the phases that we're in throughout the month. And it was funny because I got a comment of another woman saying, "This would never work for me. I'm trying to build muscle, and exercising like this wouldn't work for me." And I just said, "That's fine." But in my brain, I was like, well, your goal is to build muscle. Someone else's goal might be to get their period back or to focus on
Yeah.
fertility. And so I'm sure you could use this in a way if you did want to build muscle, but typically if someone's in a state of hormone irregularity and we're just trying to get our hormones back into balance, bring those cortisol levels, that stress hormone down, this is ideally what we would want to do. So during menstrual phase, when you're bleeding, feel free to do absolutely nothing. If you want to move your
Yep.
body, do some stretching, do a walk. Because if you're in a lot of pain to the point where painkillers aren't even working, all you can manage is just lying on the couch, lay on the couch. Let your body rest, relax during that time.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you want to go for a walk, get some fresh air, move your body, move your legs a little bit, amazing, but don't feel any pressure to do a full hit workout while you're bleeding. That's a lot for your body. So
Mhm.
typically, yeah, just resting, stretching, walking, anything lower impact, some yin yoga. And then when we move into follicular phase, we are getting those energy levels back. We do want to try new things. So this is where you can try a fun dance class, or if you've been wanting to do any type of new fitness, anything like that, the trampoline classes, or anything that you've been curious in trying, that would be a great opportunity. If you want to go rock climbing, anything like that, follicular phase is the time to do it. Ovulation is where you're going to have the peak of energy. Testosterone is at its peak, so you are ready to rock and roll essentially. So any HIIT exercises, anything that's going to be that higher intensity spin classes, anything bar, anything that's going to take a lot of energy, because you're going to have some energy to burn, that is going to be the time to do it. And then after ovulation, we move into that luteal or luteal phase again. So you can kind of split it up because it's roughly, let's say, well, it's 10 to 14 days, but you can kind of split it up in that 2 weeks. So that first week coming off of ovulation, if you still have energy, feel free to still do some weight bearing exercises, something CrossFit. If you still have the energy to do that, awesome. And then that week, that second week of the luteal phase, that week right before your bleed, if you're lower energy, then just naturally move into mat Pilates, yoga, anything that doesn't require as much energy. And that's how you can work out with the phases.
Yeah, I love that because again, like with working out and dieting and all the things that society pressures us unknowingly to do in our day, I feel like there's no time to listen to your body because you're just pushing, pushing, pushing. And I was one of those people, and my cortisol was through the roof. And I was never able to lose weight or put on new muscle mass, or really like my body was just so inflamed and just crying for some rest. But I just kept persevering and not listening. And it's so important because now I do listen to my body, and I still love going to the gym and I love doing all the things, but it's more gentle today. I'm just taking a little bit more of a break and not being so hardcore. And then some days I am, and it makes the world of a difference. And I actually think it would help to build muscle mass because you're working with your hormones and not against them.
Yeah. And you're switching it up. You're doing different things. You're not just
Yeah.
lifting weights every single day. And
Yeah.
in fact, I had my partner's sister who trained for a half marathon, and she texted me when she was done and she said, "Thank you for doing the work that you do, because I actually implemented everything that she learned from me." She purchased my course, which is so nice of her. And she learned all the phases of the menstrual cycle. And then she implemented it in her training. And she said, "I picked this half marathon based on where I was going to be at in my cycle." And she said, "I crushed it. It was
Wow.
my best, personal best time she's ever had." And she trained the whole way throughout all the phases of her cycle. And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. How awesome is that? That she had the best time just training." And we've seen this too with the women's soccer team. I can't remember where it was, but there was a women's soccer team where the coach was like, "Let's train according to where people are at in their cycle." And they actually ended up doing so much better. Just, yeah, if you're willing to share that information, if you're on a sports team or,
Yeah.
with whoever, wherever, then you can actually train better depending where you are in your cycle, which is really cool.
I even heard, I forget where, but I even heard that when you are doing so much training in one of the phases where you do have to rest, your ligaments are more lax, or there is more movement because things are changing with the hormones and you are more susceptible to injury. Have you heard that too?
Yes, I have. I can't remember. It was someone on my podcast who was talking about exactly
Oh,
that. And I just thought that is so cool that, yeah, she
yeah.
specializes in fitness and cycle syncing. And yeah, it was the same thing. You're more injury prone at different phases in your cycle.
Yeah. And I thought that was so cool because you're just like, who would have ever thought? You just think, oh, it's a bad day, I'm clumsy. And I know for myself, before I get my period, I'm dropping everything. I have like zero grip strength. I'm like, oh, must be getting my period pretty soon. And I can't imagine lifting up weights. I'm gonna injure myself really bad. But I didn't know it was a thing until I read that. And I was like, well, this makes a lot of sense then, because I was always injuring myself right before I was getting my period or at certain times of the month when I just felt like I needed to rest.
Isn't that so cool? We just need more
Yeah,
studies on the women's body in general, just so we can
we
learn
do.
more about
Yeah.
this. But also, you mentioned an important thing of that we don't even tune into our body. Most of the time, we just go with, okay, I have 5 minutes. I'm going to go as hard as I can in the gym. But you don't actually think about intuitively, what would I benefit from at this moment? So really just
Mhm.
slowing down and actually listening to your body and thinking, what do I need right now in this moment?
Yeah. And you know what? I actually had this little like aha moment today when I was at the gym because I just recently posted something about I wouldn't prescribe these 3 stretches. And, it just really promotes a lot of flexion in the body. and I'm getting like crazy attention towards it. But whenever I post something emotional or something that's more towards like helping your spirit, it doesn't get so much attention. And I find that we need to listen to that a little bit more as a society, because we're so focused on the tangible and the physical, but it's not
Mhm.
really complete when we don't have that spiritual, emotional side to health as well. And that includes just listening to your body when you're menstruating and going through your period.
Yeah. It's because
Yeah.
we want answers and we want someone to tell
Yes.
us what to do. We want
Instant
these answers.
gratification. Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't realize all the answers. We have the answers. You just have to get quiet for a minute and listen and, put in the work and actually
Yeah,
think about it. We
absolutely.
want someone to just, I think it's because we're exhausted. We just have decision fatigue all day, every day, what to watch on the apps, what to do at the gym, what to order for dinner, what to make for dinner, all these things. And then we just need someone to tell us, okay, this is what you should do with your body. But maybe just take a minute to meditate or journal or just tune into your body. What does it actually need?
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you then tell us a little bit about cycle syncing? Does that kind of relate to listening to your body, or is it like a like more a methodology? That was tough. Like, is there a methodology to it, and does it involve emotionally regulating your body as well for proper menstruation?
Yes. So everything I described with the specific phases, most most women will go through those phases, but so there is some method to that and what we can do during those phases, but it's also
Mhm.
important to tune in as well. So maybe during ovulation, I'm just exhausted. I had a super full week and I know according to my energy levels and my hormones, I should be doing, well, not should be, but it's beneficial to do the HIIT workouts and things like that. But if I'm just not feeling it at that moment, then maybe I'll do more of a Pilates or yin yoga if I'm just really high stressed.
Mhm.
So there is some method, but it also depends where you're at. And do you have PCOS? Do you have really high cortisol levels? Do you have some insulin dysregulation going on? What do we need to focus on for you specifically? So it's a little bit of intuition and also some method that you can follow as well, kind of a routine. And it is
Mhm.
helpful when you're just getting started or if you want to come off the pill and make sure you're still getting that bleed every month. If you follow these specific phases and what to do for each phase, it can help just guide you to make your hormones more regulated during those time periods. So, yeah, you can go a little bit on intuition, a little bit with the method as well.
Okay. I've heard of seed cycling before as well. I actually
Yes.
did it because my periods were also irregular. And when my naturopath told me about this, I was like, what are pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds going to do for me? But it worked. And I was like, this is magic. So can you tell us a little bit about the seed cycling, and does it help with cycle syncing as well?
Yes, I want someone to do a study on this so bad because currently there isn't a study. So, this is more of when we get the anecdotal research
Hmm.
from our clients or from people who are actually doing the seed cycling.
Yeah.
And I know they sound very similar. So, cycle syncing or cycle alignment is just following these four phases, either with the moon or based on where you're at in your cycle and doing those different things, like we talked about with the exercise.
Hmm.
Seed cycling is consuming different seeds according to either where you're at in your cycle, or if you don't get a bleed at the moment, if you don't get a period, then following the moon. And so,
Ah, okay.
yes, there's different compounds in these seeds that can help at a certain point in the phase with estrogen and then another point in the phase with progesterone. And so you basically grind these seeds up. My favorite thing to do is just Googling seed cycling, grabbing an image, printing it off, and putting it in your kitchen. Stick it on your fridge. I don't know if that's what you found most helpful, but then you can see or setting timers in your phone. Okay, this phase during my cycle, I take these seeds. At this phase, I take these seeds.
Yeah.
And it's, pumpkin, flax, sesame, and sunflower seeds. And then you grind them up and you can eat them. Some of my clients just eat them, chew them, because sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, delicious. Or smoothies, salads, chia seeds, overnight oats, any of those
Yeah.
ways, it's very easy to get them in.
I was actually with the sunflower seeds, I was consuming sun butter because I don't love
Yeah.
peanut butter. And then I found sun butter, which tastes pretty much identical, and it's just made with sunflower seeds. So I was having that with an apple. And that was and I treated it like a medicine. I didn't, because I love my nut butters. And I didn't overdo it because I'm like, okay, one teaspoon of this and have it with an apple or put it on some toast or even with some celery sticks. I know it sounds kind of odd, but it was actually really yummy. And yeah, I noticed within like 3 months of doing that consistently, now things are back to normal. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is crazy. Like, this is amazing.
The results are pretty incredible. I haven't had a
Yeah.
client who has tried it who didn't get benefit from it. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you don't have a period or irregular periods, painful periods, and you just want to try something food wise, that's a really good place to get started.
Yeah. And like, what's the worst that can happen? You're eating pumpkin seeds and
It's
sunflower seeds. Like, it's just food, you know?
exactly. It's
Yeah.
just food. Yeah. And for
Yeah.
sesame, tahini also works as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
pumpkin seed butter, it's a little more expensive, but
It
same
is.
thing. Yeah. Any butters, very easy, like you said, apple or any
Yeah.
type of snack is it's easy to do, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, it's definitely something that I was blown away by, but I'm really happy I gave it a shot because, you're like, what's this? Like, really? These are going to help me sync like this complex system of my body is going to be regulated by seeds. But yes, it was regulated by seeds. Everything was fine. It
Right.
was great. Yeah. But that
Well,
actually brings me to the birth control pill because I've never been on the pill. I grew up with a mom that really wasn't for the pill. I'm really happy that she swayed us in that direction a little bit. But needless to say, it is a very popular decision for a lot of women. And can you tell us a little bit more about birth control?
yes. Yes. So it can be helpful for sure. So,
Mhm.
I don't bash birth control or anything like that. It's all about informed consent because
Yeah.
most of us, when we do get on birth control pill, 60% of us go on birth control for symptom management, not actually for controlling birth and trying to avoid pregnancy.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is symptom management, but no one's asking, why do I have these symptoms? Why is my period missing? Why is it heavy? Why is it late? Why do I have PCOS? We're not actually getting to the root cause of anything. A lot of us just go right to the pill, or that's what we're told by our doctors, or gynecologists will put you on the pill, the IUD, the shot, the arm, the ring, anything like that, and we'll just control your hormones. Symptoms should go away, but it's not that easy. So there's pros, there's cons. We can have more of that sexual liberation. We can put ourselves through school. We can have a bit more freedom. It can control our symptoms, especially for anything that's hormone driven, like endometriosis or PCOS. It can really temporarily manage those symptoms. So there are some pros, and some people love being on birth control. But coming back to that informed consent, a lot of people aren't aware of all the side effects, the giant piece of paper that comes with the insert for your birth control pills. I
Yeah.
remember opening it once and the font was like size 8 or smaller, and
They
it's
make
this
you not want to read
giant.
it.
Oh yeah, I was like, no. It's crazy that the amount of side effects, everything ranging from more minimal to, let's say a missing period. For some people, that's a relief if they don't get their period while on, it's more common on the IUD compared to cancer or a low libido or migraines. There's all sorts of side effects. Going back to Google, one thing I love is the side effects of birth control. Jolene Brighton, in the images, there's this one infograph, and it's a body and outlines everything from head to toes, all the different side effects that you can experience from the pill. And so visually, I just love seeing that infograph that you can see all, more easy than it is to open up that giant newspaper worth of side effects. But
Yeah.
clots are a big one as well.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons for sure. But if you are on it more for those symptoms, then what are you masking? What are you trying to put the Band-Aid on this giant wound instead of actually going to clean the wound, heal the wound, maybe put a poultice on it, maybe try some herbs, things like that. So I'm pro, here's your options and what would work best for you and your body. Are you focusing on fertility? Do you not want to have a kid at this point? And there's so many other birth control options that we can do, like fertility awareness method, condoms, all sorts of things that don't involve a synthetic form of hormones, essentially.
Yeah. And it's, to my understanding, like you mentioned, there are different forms of birth control. So there's like copper IUDs, there's patches. Can you tell us a little bit more about the different types of birth control? Because back in the day, it was just a pill and you had to take it same day, same hour. Like if you forgot, it threw everything off. So what are these new forms of birth control that are out there that makes it a little bit less detrimental if you do forget?
Yes. So there's a couple of different kinds of the pill. There's the combo pill or the mini pill, which is a progestin only. Some of these things might be, if you've heard them, especially in the States, there's commercials for these things. Now we have a lot more options. There's the shot, the ring, the patch, the IUD, the implant, the rod that goes in your arm as well. And those are more the hormonal options. The non-hormonal options would be the copper IUD, which is non-hormonal. So a lot of my clients do like to opt for that because it's kind of a set it and forget it. But if you are someone who's prone to more heavy, painful periods, it's not the best option. It can worsen heavier, more painful periods. So something to consider there. There's fertility awareness method as well, which takes a little bit more finessing to learn, but I actually enjoy it. I find it's fun to get to know your body and the different signs and symptoms your body tells you about when you're ovulating and when you're in different phases. We can track cervical mucus or cervical fluid, things like that. Condoms, which is a really easy kind of no-brainer type of birth control. And then diaphragm and withdrawal method, which I would not recommend, but those are some of the options. And yeah, like you said, they're a bit more complex now, and we have a bit more hormones thrown in with the progestin and estrogen. One thing, side note, that I found really fascinating is I listened to, she's also on YouTube, but I listened to the podcast version of The Dark History of Birth Control.
Ooh, yeah.
It was wildly eye-opening about how the pill even started. And we hear about it as it's advocating for women, but the history of the pill was not actually advocating for women. It was to control specific populations. And it's a whole dark history. And I was just shocked by that information. And then, of course, it did eventually lead into a movement of advocating for women getting jobs and all sorts of things like that, which is great. So again, informed consent. Does this work for you at this point in your life? Yes or no? Do you want to try something else? Do you want to, instead of just taking a pill at the same time every day and, like we talked about, just moving through life and not listening to signs and symptoms? Or do you feel like now's the time to connect more to that feminine and actually learn what your body's telling you and all the different signs and symptoms?
Yeah. I also heard something really interesting about the birth control pill, and it was a study, I think it was in the 60s or 70s, but they tried to put men on something similar to a birth control pill, and they were complaining that they were having headaches, they were getting moody, and I'm like, huh. Interesting. So they stopped the study because they weren't liking it, and it obviously didn't go through. But I was like, that is so fascinating that a lot of things in science are very, based towards men, but for women, we still let these things go and slide. We just tweak it along the way, right? So very fascinating.
Very fascinating. We also let these things go because we are the ones that, if it's a burden for us to have children at this point in our lives, we have to, bear that grunt, essentially. Yeah. It's our responsibility. So it's
a double-edged sword, you could say.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is. It's like women want it, but then they get, turned a certain way because of what it does. But you can't have everything that you ever wanted, and it's a peachy perfect world, right? There's going to be side effects. There's going to be other things going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was listening to Dr. Sarah Hill, who wrote the
Mhm.
book, This Is Your Brain on Birth Control.
Mhm.
So fascinating because she brings the science, she brings the studies, and she was
Yeah.
talking about, I'm pretty sure this was pretty recently, that there was something about this specific vitamin A pathway in men that is responsible for sperm production. And if you
Ah.
can halt this vitamin A pathway, it impacts no other functions in the male body.
Hmm.
It just will halt that sperm production. So I think they're trying to figure out something along those lines, which should actually be really, really cool. Because the other form
Very
of
cool.
that male birth control that they were testing out was halting testosterone production,
Yeah.
which then brought on all the symptoms that we typically deal with, the headaches, all the bloating, things like that, feeling really tired, fatigue, low energy, which, testosterone is responsible for a lot of that drive, motivation, energy, those
Yeah.
type of things. And so there might be some progress in the future, but yes,
You never know.
there
There's a
was
lot
that.
going on in those labs that we don't know about until it hits the journals and we get to read all about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. I wrote down her name, Sarah Hill. I'm gonna take a look at her book.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I prefer audiobooks, especially with anything that's, a little bit more sciencey. For me, it's just a bit
Hmm.
easier to digest, but also if you listen to her on podcast platforms or YouTube or anywhere, she just is so knowledgeable about all the sciencey aspects. She talks a lot about how women are attracted to people when they're on the pill versus off the pill, or on birth control versus off birth control, and how that changes. Typically, if someone's on birth control, they're more likely to pick a mate who has a little bit more soft and feminine features compared
I
to
had that theory and I didn't even read this
yes.
book, and so did my husband.
You'll be so
Yeah.
interested in Dr. Sarah Hill because she talks all about the study that they did. She talks about another one in the book where they smelled t-shirts and who they were attracted to based on the pheromones on birth control versus off birth control. All sorts of things. It's a very fascinating read.
And I love the brain. We know that I love the brain. So I would love to read that because even when you asked me when I was on your podcast about has there been any studies done on women, there's not a lot done with women in the brain because of the hormones. But reading something like this about how the birth control pill can affect decision making in women towards finding a partner, which is so important, right? It's really like survival of the fittest when you're finding your teammate. And that's really interesting to know that it does influence that, which is, huge factor in
Yeah,
life. Yeah.
it's so cool. So you'll have to listen to her and get more
Yeah,
about the
absolutely
details.
will. I'm going to take a look at that. That sounds really, really cool. But when it comes to birth control per se, we talked about the different types of birth controls, but when we're trying to get off the birth control, is there kind of like a regimen that you have for your clients? Like, what exactly do you tell your clients and how do you help them with getting off of it so we're not just like cold turkeying it and leading our bodies to just ruin?
Yes. So some of my clients do want to come off cold turkey because they're just like, they've made that decision. They're like, I'm
Yeah.
ready. But ideally, give yourself about 3 months. And then in that 3 months, we can really fine tune the supplements we want to put you on, lifestyle changes we want to do. So I always recommend choosing a new method of birth control if you're not looking to get pregnant at this moment. So whether that's fertility awareness method, condoms, if you want to do non-hormonal IUD, how to prepare yourself to have that conversation
Mhm.
with whoever is changing your IUD, because some people will get a lot of pushback when they decide to make that change. So mentally preparing yourself, what am I going to do next? And then also mentally preparing yourself for, what if my hormones do change? What if I don't know, start to discover stuff about myself? So mentally preparing. And then if you need to have a conversation with a partner, a spouse, anything like that as well, I recommend just being open and honest as much as possible. And then we want to do some digestion work as well. So we always
Mhm.
want to make sure all the pathways are open before we do any detoxing, because I do like to do some detoxing with my clients just as they're coming off of the synthetic hormones, but we want to make sure the doors are open. So lymphatics are open, you're moving your bowels every day. So 2 to 3 easy bowel movements every single day. You're sweating, you're moving your lymph around, whether that's exercising, rebounding, dry brushing, things like that. If you need to have a good cry, if you want to do a sauna, you want to do a really hot bath, all these things just to get that flowing. And then some liver support, because our liver takes quite the big hit as well when we're on any sort of medication, things like that. And especially just in this world, we're inundated with chemicals and, all this stuff. So some liver support I do enjoy doing with my clients. And then typically after getting, all the doors open, liver support, they're feeling really good. And then we're ready to take on some nutrition aspects, replenishing all the nutrients that are depleted by the pill. So making sure their iron levels are good, vitamin D levels are good. We do vitamin C, zinc, CoQ10, all those that are, and B vitamins that are depleted by the pill. And then after that, learning some cycle syncing as well, just to get in tune with their body, what it looks like when they come off the pill. They're typically really excited to just learn about their body and all, those cervical mucus changes. And they're really excited to meet themselves again and what their personality is like, who they're attracted to. And we definitely work on sleep and stress after that, and making sure some of those foundations are covered as well. And then, after that, we just focus on, and this is session by session. So it's not all at once. We take it in steps and phases, so it's not overwhelming. And then we'll switch it around too, depending on what the person needs. If they need more of that mental support first, then we'll just put sleep and stress and your adrenals above some of the other things, and we'll switch it around a little bit. But sleep and stress are essential to work on as well, because a lot of your hormones do come from there also. A lot of your hormones are made in your adrenals, and if you're busy producing a lot of cortisol, your stress hormone, then it's harder for you to actually make your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And so those are some of the basics that we work on. And then if something comes up, then we'll address that too.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned like getting to know your body again and getting reintroduced to who you are. And that's why I think it is so important to work with a professional when you're doing anything like this, because you're going to be going on a huge roller coaster, and getting that guidance from family and from friends and people who aren't professionals in helping people get off of medication, or they don't know how to even handle emotional situations like that. It's really important to find yourself a practitioner that you resonate with and that can help guide you properly in making sure that you're doing it safely and that all of the things that you're feeling are normal. Because you're going to feel a little abnormal when you're going through this, I'm sure.
It's what I've noticed in myself and a lot of my clients is typically at that 3-month mark after coming off the pill or the IUD, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what the heck happened? Your body's fully detoxed from these hormones. And then, you start to notice a shift in your cycle or a shift in your personality. With one of my clients, we did a lot of journaling. She was so excited. Every time I met with her, she was like, I feel like I see color again. She's like, I was in black and white before, and now I see color throughout my day, and I see joy, and I feel like I have a purpose. And I have like chills just thinking about her.
That's so beautiful.
And I was like, for some people, we just don't realize how monotone we're going throughout our day in, day out, taking the pill at the same time every day, same hormones every day, because we get that specifically measured dose of hormones through the pill or the IUD. So you're just a little bit more monotone all throughout the month and your days and your cycle, compared to when she came off and she just thought it was the coolest thing. Sometimes she's in that more yin energy, sometimes she was in yang energy. So, more zen versus more energetic. And it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I think that's so amazing as a practitioner to even see your patients changing. And usually 3 months is that magic number. It's what, the science tells us. Things become chronic, either good or bad, but long lasting at 3 months. And it's no surprise that people are feeling a certain way at that 3-month mark, but it's so beautiful that you get to guide them and show them how this journey is. And okay, there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you get to find yourself again, which is really amazing.
It's so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Alex, can you tell us a little bit more about your practice then? Because I want to hear a little bit about your entrepreneur journey as well, and you working with clients and kind of where that all began too.
Yes, I started out. I'm the type of person who, if I want to do something, I set my sights on it. I go for it right away. I don't tend
Yeah.
to think things through
Are you a
that
fire sign?
heavily. I am. Yeah, I'm a
Oh, there
Leo.
we go. Because I'm like, wow, that
Yes.
sounds a lot like me.
Yes, you're a fire sign too.
Yeah, I'm a Sag.
That's so funny, right? So it's just we see it, we want it, we go for it
Yes,
right away.
absolutely.
So coming out of school, I just jumped right into working for a naturopathic doctor even before I was finished school. So I was basically, doing like setting up for my practitioner side before I was even graduated. I had a job at a clinic and I just emailed her and I was like, listen, I love what you do. Can I come do some volunteer hours with you? And then she hired me right after. And she specializes in oncology and so more of that cancer field. So she was doing all the naturopathic doctor side of it. And she said, I would love if you could do the nutrition side and I can just send them to you. You do a deep dive into nutrition. She handles all the, the meds, the supplements, all the side effects, things that they're going through. IV therapy, things like that. So I said, great. I got certified in that. And then I got certified in live blood cell analysis and muscle testing. And I just wanted to do it all. So I tried all sorts of stuff just to figure out what my passion was. But then at the end of the day, I found when I came home, what I was reading and listening to and researching on social channels was women's health. And for my own health, and I love the oncology side of it. Those are some of my favorite patients and clients to work with. But at the end of the day, I'm reading way more about all the women's health studies coming out and that side of it and going through my own journey with women's health and all that. It just made sense. So then I got certified as a women's health practitioner and then have just been doing that since about 2020. I really went all in on the women's health journey and the podcast and my private practice. And so it's been quite the journey. And even before I was in holistic nutrition, I also studied dietetics. So I thought my be all end all was working in a hospital. That didn't work out. So then, everything happens for a reason. And I'm where I am today for a reason. And if that changes in the future, that changes in the future. There's no set in stone concrete. If you want to change your mind, you're allowed to change your mind. So that's what I'm doing today. And I see clients virtually worldwide. So it's been pretty cool just to see someone in Australia or Hawaii one day, New York, Canada, all over the map, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I think that when you're a practitioner or when you're really open to listening, not just in your menstrual cycle, but also with your career, what you're meant to do actually finds you and it picks you. And I think that's what happened with you in your women's health journey, is that you tried so many different amazing things that give you a great foundation. But at the end of the day, it's just back to women's health. And that's amazing that you stuck to it this whole time. And now you're an expert in the field helping so many women around the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Celia. That's so sweet.
No, it's the truth. Honestly, like listening to your podcast, I know that's one of the many things that you do, but it's amazing to see how connected you are and just bringing your expertise to everything. It's just like, wow, like you really know your stuff. And it's like a no-brainer to want to work with you and getting to be optimal in, your reproductive system and having that better quality of life, and just being healthy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, a better quality of life. Sometimes we can take that for granted.
For sure.
But it's so important. They say health is wealth, but you don't realize it until you're in a situation where you don't have it. Yeah. And then you're like, oof, I should probably take care of my health. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's definitely the one thing that we do take, even I take it for granted. And you don't realize until it's compromised or it's gone how much your body does for you. And just to treat it with so much respect, right? And love every single day.
100%. I was doing
Yeah.
some journaling recently with one of my other practitioner friends, hosted a journaling session. And one thing was, what do we want more of in our day-to-day life? What do I want to bring more in? And for some reason, the word fun and joy was just this huge sign that was just ringing in my head. And I was like, oof, okay, I'm going to bring more fun and joy into my daily life, just
Yeah.
day to day. Yeah, not take things so seriously, just have fun.
I think, yeah. And, when it comes to being a practitioner, it can get very repetitive. Like, I love seeing my patients. I love seeing my clients with functional health. But at the end of the day, you need to bring in a bit of creativity, a bit of fun, a bit of joy. Because if you don't, it's very easy to just go through the motions. And then it just gets so boring because there's nothing new happening, right? So I think that's a really good thing to focus on for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And have you tried Reiki yet as a practitioner?
I had a Reiki session by a practitioner. Well, she's actually one of my previous episodes, Kat, and it was fantastic. But I'm hearing about Reiki so much these days, like more than usual. And I'm like, what is the universe trying to tell me? To do a podcast, and your mom sounds amazing. I want her on my show. She got you
Right?
guys certified as so young. How did that even happen? Like, tell me more about that.
She's just always been into that kind of stuff as well. Her mom was pretty into, just both my parents grew up on farms
Yeah.
in the most southern point of Canada. And her mom, for instance, had macular degeneration
Okay.
or was experiencing the early signs of that, and basically just was like, I'm going to juice a bunch of carrots. And then her eyesight ended up getting a lot better. And so my mom probably had that in her mind. And then a lot of my mom's sisters or part of our family ended up going the nursing route, but they bring this interesting aspect of a Reiki combo, essential oil combo, herb combo with their nursing as well, which I find pretty fascinating. And so I kind of grew up in this family where we have a lot of nurses and doctors, but also they love supplements and herbs and Reiki.
I love that.
I'll have to ask her why she put us in Reiki at such a young age. But I feel like throughout my life, it really connected me more to my intuition, because I can just connect a lot with people through just intuition and be a really good listener for people. And so she also did reflexology, my mom. So she was doing that for a time period. And she just brings all this super cool stuff. And as a practitioner, I just found Reiki to be helpful because we receive a lot. Like you're saying, we're just seeing patients and clients day in, day out, and you're the one receiving it all. And sometimes we can, especially if we connect with someone who's a lot like us, sometimes I'll have clients who even look like me or sound like me, or I've seen a very similar situation that we're in. And sometimes I'll take it on myself, but I need to kind of cut those cords and send the energy back to them as well. Because I have noticed sometimes if my client's struggling with something, then I'll start to take on that energetically as well and start to take on their pain or whatever it is. And that's
actually happened to me.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. What was your situation?
I was adjusting a little boy actually, and he came in with really bad low back pain. As soon as I adjusted him, my back, I felt like it was just gonna I felt like I was gonna buckle to the floor. And he's like, "Oh my God, I feel so much better." I'm like, "Yeah."
You're like,
me.
I took it on. Yeah.
I took that on for you. But like I've had a lot of injuries, I would say, in my chiropractic career because I'm touching my patients, I'm taking that on, and you have to put yourself in a protective bubble or a protective shield. And one of my guides, she's like, you are so empathetic and you have this mission to heal everyone. She's like, you can't take on the world. You need to just relax and you need to have compassion for people, but you can't absorb everything for them because it will wreak havoc on a practitioner's body for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what did you do to then help your back pain? Did you get adjusted,
I
or
went
did
to
you?
my chiropractor.
Yeah. Put it on my chiropractor.
I take this now.
Yes. I can imagine too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was just gonna say with your like physically touching a patient hands
yeah,
on, that just the energy can just come right through the palms of your hand and then impact
it
you.
can. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be careful as a practitioner, whether you're virtual or whether you're physical. There's an energy connection that's taking place between the two of you. And if you're
Mhm.
not protecting yourself, you need to make sure you're detoxing at the end of the day. So usually what I'll do when I come home, I'll rinse off. I'll change my clothes. Like I will not become Dr. Celia Corbo anymore because like that will then cause a lot more problems in my body. I need to just be Celia. Like just,
Mhm.
that's it. Nothing crazy. But yeah, I definitely need to do my rituals to clean the spirit after.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
a shower or a bath or something with water, drinking a lot of
Yeah.
water is super helpful just to cleanse the energy off of
Yes.
you physically, mentally, and yeah, have
Yeah.
some sort of ritual that switches you into home mode and into just being Celia, like you said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's so important to take care of your health as a practitioner. And I find that we don't do such a good job at it until times are really tough and we're starting to feel it. Because in the beginning, I was so determined just to get patients and just to work and, put my expertise into use and help people. And then I realized, okay, I need to take some days off because my body's
Yes.
hurting and my mind is so cluttered and I'm just not giving my best anymore to my patients. And it's coming across because patients weren't coming back and they were not, they weren't being as receptive. They weren't healing as well as they were supposed to either because they're not getting it from a good source, right? So I think Reiki is a really wonderful way to learn how to protect your energy and also to give yourself the energy to help others.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, yeah, you said something. It just totally slipped my mind now. But yeah, Reiki's a
Reiki's
great.
cool.
Yeah, right. And Reiki's cool. I can't remember. You were just saying something, but I don't remember what now.
It'll come back
Anyways,
to you
yeah.
in an hour
We're like, oh, I
when
meant
we're
to
no
hit on
longer on
that
this
point.
podcast and you're like, that's what I wanted to say.
Oh, that always happens to me. I'm just,
Oh, I
yeah,
know. I know.
yeah.
Tip of the tongue. That's okay. Well, Alex, it was such a pleasure chatting with you. Can you tell everyone where we can find you on social media, on your website, and if you have anything exciting going on to be in touch with?
Yes, yeah. I'm at Nutrition Moderation on pretty much all the platforms except the podcast is Holistic Women's Health, but I'm on Instagram, TikTok, all the places, the things. Website is nutritionmoderation.com. I do have a few online courses for anyone interested in cycle syncing or if you have cramps. I have a course called Bye Bye Cramps as well. And then
That's
I'm planning
right.
to do a whole typically what I see clients one-on-one with is coming off the pill along with pretty much any other hormone issue, but the main thing is coming off the pill. So I'm going to create a course as well. If someone just wants that option, if they want to DIY it, then I'll put all my best info in that course. So that will be coming in the near future as well. And yeah, you can connect with me through my website or Instagram if you want to learn more and connect with me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such a pleasure chatting with you again. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next episode. All right. Oh my God, that was so much. I love talking to you.